It was time to go back to work. When did that happen?
Well, we really never planned a whole lot. We never thought a whole lot about college and how we were going to pay for college. And then Jimmy was a senior. Jimmy was a senior at Gloucester Catholic. And then it kind of dawned on us that he had to go. Dad, we were very adamant about you guys going to college. And Dad was especially, because he never had the opportunity. So it was like panic time, but college was upon us, and I decided that I should go to work. But Dad wanted no parts of me going to work as a salesperson or anything like that. So I kept looking in the paper for a job. And one day I was coming home from Mom's, and when I was young, I worked at an automobile agency and kept automobile books by hand. So I was coming home from Mom's through Woodbury, and I stopped at every automobile agency through Woodbury to see if I could get a job. And as soon as they heard I hadn't worked for 19 years, the interview was over. So then I saw in the paper that Frank Wessler, a CPA firm in Pittman, was looking for a bookkeeper. So I went for the interview, and he said to me, how do you know you're a good bookkeeper? And now, how did he put it? He said, well, it's been 19 years since you did bookkeeping. I said, yeah, but I kept automobile books. And once he heard that I kept automobile books, he figured I knew what I was doing. So he hired me. And I was petrified because I had worked for 19 years. So he started me dirt cheap because he knew I was desperate. And I said to him, if I show you I can do the job, will you give me more money? He said, oh, yes, as soon as, I see you can do it, I'll give you a raise. So once he saw I could do bookkeeping, he sat with me for days on end teaching me the bookkeeping and the tax returns, and it was really interesting. So one afternoon he came in from the Rotary, real proud of himself, and he said, they had a speaker, and the speaker said, if you have an employee that does a good job, you should tell them that. And he said to the guy, well, I have I'm always telling her what a good bookkeeper she is, and that I appreciate her. And so I forget how the whole conversation went, but at that point I said to him, do you think I'm doing a good job? And he said, yes. And I said, well, now you could give me that raise you promised me. And that was the beginning of all our fights about money. But he was very interesting. He was a very good teacher, but he was kind of cheap because at one point I went in and told him I wanted a raise, and he said, I don't have to give you a raise because you don't have a degree. So at that point I decided to go get a degree, and I went to Glassboro State, which is Rowan now. And I went for one semester, and it was just too much because our first grandchild was coming. I was working. I was going to class before I went to work and coming home and doing my homework. And Denny, you told me that I don't have to get A's because I didn't have to bring my report card home to my parents. But I loved it. Once I got over the fear of being in a classroom with kids, my kids' age, I loved it.
Didn't you actually end up helping those kids?
I did. We would walk back to the car because the man we had teaching wasn't very good. He had failed the CPA exam twice, but he was the professor teaching accounting one. No, in fact, I took accounting too because I told them of my background where I worked, and they said I didn't have to take accounting one. So I took accounting too, and he really wasn't very good. And when these kids would ask him a question and he didn't know the answer, he would double talk them instead of saying to them, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. So we would walk, they would walk with me back to the parking lot, and they would ask me questions, and it was just so much fun. And after the first test, I mean, I studied, I was all prepared, and I took the test, and after he gave me my mark, I got a 72, and I was livid. And Dad said, "You sound like the kids, blaming it on the teacher." So when I went back the next time, I waited for all the kids to leave, and I went up to him and I said that was, I was really upset with my mark. And he said, "Well, didn't you know the work?" I said, "I knew the work like the back of my hand. But bookkeeping, accounting is black and white, and there were too many gray areas in this test." And so from then on, we had good tests.